Seems fair to me.
Yes, it did.
Well, if you don't know what fair is, you can't make it.
Unacceptable by any reason. What a great crowd we have for DonnyBash, our annual fundraiser for the 9 Network. What a wonderful crowd here at the Sheldon, and we thank you so much for your support. We've got lots of things to talk about on this edition, but why don't we start by meeting the members of our panel, starting with the media veteran herself, who this week was named the new news director for the Big 550 KTRS, Wendy Wiese. And ladies and gentlemen, he's one of our founders, started the program in 1987 with 4 others. And ladies and gentlemen, you enjoy his column every week in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, a true civic treasure, Mr. Bill McClellan. And another civic treasure and another founder of our program. Back in 1987, Ray Hartmann, who, well, had hair down to his shoulders at that time, but today he is still keeping the politicians' feet to the fire as he writes for the Riverfront Times and hosts a show for the Big 550 KTRS. Ray Hartmann, ladies and gentlemen. And ever in sartorial splendor, you never know what you're going to see. But he is kind of the king of all media, what with his appearances on 97.1 FM, The Dave Glover Show, and 590, not to mention writing for STLmag.com and the St. Louis American. Give it up, Sheldon, for Mr. Alvin Reid. Well, we thank you so much for joining us, and we're going to ask you for your questions and comments a little bit later, but we'll start with you, Bill McClellan, about the story that really has, I guess, captured the attention of the nation, at least for today and maybe tomorrow, who knows. But an impeachment inquiry has begun into President Donald J. Trump, and today there was a hearing on Capitol Hill looking into a telephone conversation that he had with the president of Ukraine in July. I guess the question is, if this does get to the Senate, what will our local senators do? For example, Josh Hawley or Roy Blunt, or is there any possibility that they would vote to convict the president of the United States, who's a member of their own party?
Well, I think it'll be a strictly partisan vote unless there's some kind of secret cabal among the Republicans where they think they can get President Trump out and Vice President Mike Pence in. And if there's a secret cabal, then Blunt and Hawley might go along with it. But otherwise, I think it'll be strictly partisan.
Well, you know, you speak about a secret cabal. The best part of DonnyBash is when we get either advice or lifelines. And tonight, Annie and Tony, who are out there, have a suggestion that could break news, that the whistleblower, who really should be anonymous, is actually Mike Pence. And I think Annie and Tony's, it was their idea. I love it. In which case, there's a good chance that I actually think, well, Josh Hawley is already, you know, he's so far out in right field that he's trying to climb back on a field. And he's already, of course, but I think Roy Blunt is one of the people who could save the Republic. And I think that, I do think the Democrats are, well, maybe it's a little, I think there's a good chance that the Democrats will, if they're smart, will do a 1-count impeachment on, related to the Ukrainian, treason. And
treason?
Yeah, basically by the president.
I think not.
They won't call
Ray,
it that.
Do you really think
Yes.
that we're going to overturn the election with the phone call that was made in July when there was no quid pro quo, where The president basically told the president of Ukraine, hello, glad you're there, and you might want to look into the vice president.
You must have read a different set of notes. First of all, we didn't see the transcript. The transcripts are been hermetically sealed, we found out today, as if they were the nuclear codes. But whatever we saw was notes was pretty clear that the president of the United States reached out for dirt from a foreign leader, which is pretty much prima facie misconduct.
But
That's enough.
what did the Clinton campaign do in 2016
With the Steele dossier?
when it reached out to Christopher Steele, a double agent out of the UK, looking for dirt on Donald J. Trump?
Maybe they could impeach Hillary.
But triple. Okay, as a guy who actually, hosted this show for the last 2 weeks, this whole whistleblower thing and somebody taking over. No, I'm not with it. Okay, I think I'm speaking for most Americans, okay? You might be a zealot Democrat or on the right or whatever, but I think most Americans are sick of this, okay? And what I tell to my Democratic counterparts are this: where's my health care bill? Where is my this? Where is my that? This guy, I don't like him, okay, fine. He's president of the United States. But this whole idea where we're going down this path where we're going to impeach him and you're not going to impeach him because the Senate is going to not impeach him, the same thing that Bill Clinton went through. And when Bill Clinton went through it, I thought this is a waste of time and energy and America's money. And I feel the same way about this. I don't like him, okay, but he's president. And if you think like this whole thing is going to come down and just stop it. Wait. I'm a sports guy. Okay, people say, well, he's a sports guy. I said, well, I'm a sports guy. But one thing sports told me was this: the refs may be cheap, and they may be illegally recruiting, and they may be doing this, doing that. But until you beat them on the field, it doesn't matter. So beat them on the field. Use your energy for that.
In the election,
in the election.
And there is a sense, at least among the Democrats, that the Ukraine story will resonate in a way that the Mueller story did not. And I think that's a reach.
I agree.
If Mueller and Russian collusion, Ray, if that didn't stick, then this is definitely not going to stick. It has more to do with the fact that they switched servers. They switched the phone calls to a different server, which Speaker Pelosi says is tantamount to knowing that you are doing something wrong. But I think everybody in this room is definitely in agreement on the fact that when Hunter Biden was appointed to this board in Ukraine, this gas company board, he knew nothing about Ukraine. He was making $50,000 a month. And in that particular instance, whether it is the fabulous Trump brothers or the fabulous Trump sister, Hunter Biden, or whether it's the children of past senators in Missouri who today work very lucratively on K Street, I think everybody is in agreement that that kind of stuff has got to stop.
I agree.
Okay, well, let me say something about that. Because I think, first of all, there is the material difference in this case, besides the fact, the news today that keep in mind, this was broken by Republican appointees. Everybody keeps talking about the media and the Democrats. This story was broken.
No, it was the whistleblower who was a CIA operative, and in the report it said that he may have had allegiances to an opponent, political opponent of the president.
Trump appointees found this to be credible and urgent. The Trump appointees are who pushed this forward. And the fact is,
but the Office of Legal Counsel did not.
The difference in this is this involves the president personally. The Mueller report was never focused and never had evidence of the president's personal participation.
And yet you said it did before we learned otherwise. You said there was collusion.
Well, I think there was, but my point is this is clear in this case that there's no denying that this is about his guy.
Don't forget.
Wait and see. I will say this about
it. Here's the deal.
One thing.
In 1998, after President Clinton was impeached, the Democrats actually picked up votes in the Congress that year, and the president left office one of the most popular presidents in the history of the country. This is a very good chance of backfiring, and I think Democrats will realize that.
It could, but they've got to decide if they want to govern. To your point about Biden, if I'm a Democratic candidate other than Biden, I don't know, for bowling fans, this is like a 7-10 split in my opinion. I mean, you just picked off like Biden and Trump potentially at the same time. I think it's very bad for Biden.
Look, and Jay-Z works for the NFL. Okay, and rather say like, what's that about? Right, and we're on to the next thing. There was a good game on this week. Same thing here. I'm just like, look, concentrate on winning the game. This won't win you the game.
All right, let's move on. Okay. Hey, second topic, we'll go to you, Alvin, on a plan in the city of St. Louis to put $5 or maybe $8 million into a program called Cure Violence, that's been touted by Aldermanic President Reid. And it's a way, we hope, to reduce homicides in the city of St. Louis, where there have been far too many for far too long, including too many involving children under 16 this year. So, what do you think about $5 or maybe $8 million for this program?
Where's my $5 or my $8 million going, okay? What specific program? What specific person? Is it, friend of, guy who or gal who gave money to a political campaign? Where is it all going? Is it going to stop? Is it going to, stop a mind change that fires bullets into a, indiscriminate crowd and little kids are shot and murdered or whatever? I'm not connecting the dots. I'm not saying it's the worst idea in the world, but I'm not standing for it for the city to give up $8 million. How about you use that $8 million and just hire some more police officers? Okay.
Yeah, I disagree. First of all, I do not think more police officers is the answer. I think there are other. First of all, I think this is worth a shot. I don't know a whole lot about the program. We'll see.
$5 million is a pretty big shot, right?
Well, I think it's worth giving it a shot, and I think that ultimately, long-term answers like education and recreational centers are a better use of trying to find ways to prevent crime rather than say, let's just throw more police officers and I do think police officers need to be paid better, et cetera, but I think this is worth a try.
I do too. I think you have to sometimes just throw money at stuff. And then I've been wrong before. I remember I supported the William Roberti
yes, you did.
Of the schools, because I said, let's try something. And I feel the same way. I'm not terribly optimistic because they tried this plan in Chicago, and Chicago has not turned around completely. But I think you have to do something to show the community that we want to do something.
Well, the thing is, I don't get the impression that the leaders are really taking the time to study best practices. And I've mentioned this before on this program. There's also a program called Group Violence Reduction Strategy, or Focused Deterrence. It's touted by a guy at the John Jay School of Criminology by the name of Kennedy, and a guy by the name of Apt, who's actually at Harvard. And basically, it has reduced crime in places like Oakland and Boston. And in this book by Thomas Apt, he says that Cure Violence sometimes reduces homicides, and sometimes homicides increase in cities that use the Cure Violence model. And I'm not convinced that our leaders are really examining all the alternatives out there.
Or to, your first thing is like, cure violence. Cure violence is here. Let's do 5-8 million. Within a week or 2 weeks or however, wait a minute. What research did you do? What did you go out and try to prove to the people that this money will be used wisely and for these specific concerns? And it's nothing. It's just like, that's what I just...
But you can't study a problem to death, Alvin. I mean, sometimes you just have to say, here's some money, let's try this program.
But I agree with Alvin. I think the $5 million, when you think of that chunk, to Charlie's point, in a paper that was published in 2015 that examined the actual results of the Cure Violence program, and the fact that they said it was simply too difficult to untangle some of the data that had been kept for years that would point to an absolute, yes, this this works. Split it down the middle. Use $2.5 million for an increased police presence. Use $2.5 million to cure violence. See what kind of numbers we see. See if we're moving the needle or the statistics. And then maybe it would require further expenditures later. But I agree, $5 million when we need police officers just seems like a lot.
Go ahead. I just think Charlie really kind of violated one of the things here. You have too many facts. There are too many facts.
Usually we don't. Yeah.
And it may be that there's other programs, but I do think programs like this, and there may be better ones, but programs like this are worth investing rather than just saying more police.
Right.
That's my view.
And I'll give you a fact, okay?
And that's what Jimmy Edwards said.
That was the editor of the St. Louis American for many years. And when Bill was writing about Bill Roberti, and this is a good idea, and we were North and South Pole, yet we sit here together and we are friends, okay? And that's what's wrong right now. So man, those days, so what the hell?
Well, let me check my memory. I thought that Dr. Suggs of the American and the Black Round Table was with that idea.
They were. But those of us who were in kind of the hinterland, we're kind of man, seriously?
I thought, hey, let's try it.
Wait, go grab those papers.
Right.
All right. Hey, another topic, and Wendy, Wiese, we've had now some vaping deaths in the United States, including at least one in the state of Missouri, and other people have had some serious lung conditions and other illnesses as a result of vaping. So now Charlie Baker, who's the governor of Massachusetts, has banned all vaping products for, I think, 4 months. The governor of New York is doing something similar, and even the president said that he was thinking about banning vaping products. Do you think it's time to ban vaping?
I think that we are facing a really critical situation at this moment. Other governors, other state leaders are also considering these bans. There seems to be a connection between the e-cigarettes and anything that contains cannabis, anything that not cannabis necessarily, but THC, the compound THC. That's what they're focusing on. But to see these lives literally being snuffed out when there are more questions than answers. If the CDC thinks that this is a health crisis, then yes, absolutely. It would be if you had moonshine, if you had sudden deaths because of moonshine, and I understand that cigarettes are already regular organic cigarettes, if you will, are already a health hazard. But I think this needs immediate action to be taken.
First of all, you got to keep cannabis out of this discussion.
I'm sorry. THC.
Throw down for cannabis.
THC.
We're moving in the other direction.
No offense, Bill.
Thank you, Wendy.
Bill and I are not going to put up with this. We're rolling for cannabis. By
the way, excuse me, Bill's appearance tonight is sponsored by Nacho Cheese Doritos.
Yeah, there you go.
And Taco Bell.
But I don't believe I've vaped.
No, you haven't.
And I think that a good step would be to ban vaping in public places. I think you could do that much like
so
we do
people
with
can
smoking.
kill themselves privately.
Well, there's a material.
That's the American way.
You mentioned moon. I was going to say you got to get my moonshine out of my cold dead fingers. No, I am too much in favor of legalizing. To me, what you do in the privacy of your own home, obviously we've got to try to anything to keep it out of the hands of kids.
Do you realize how quickly these people are dying? They are.
We have one person in Missouri.
Excuse me.
No, 11. We've come up to number 11 today. There are 550 people who are critically ill with rapid lung deterioration.
I think there's a material.
Guys, it's not just vaping. It's when people take the empty canister and then they put in the THC or the oils, and they sell it on the black market. But if it's manufactured by Juul or a leading manufacturer, it's not resulting in as many deaths. In fact, we had 400,000 deaths last year from tobacco in this country, and now we're worried about 8 or 9 vaping deaths.
Agreed. And why you got to be the black market?
Well, sorry, but yeah, I read it. There are scientists in the UK who are saying if your choice is smoking cigarettes or vaping and using that vaping product to try and wean yourself off of, your addiction to nicotine, you should vape, because actually in India last year, 900,000 people died of smoking. And they're saying, why would we take away the vaping if the vaping's taking them off the smoking?
And that was when it first came on the market. That was basically what the whole idea was. They never, I don't think, and I'm not being, chapter and verse, but one of the things they said, like, on their ads, they said, like, this could lead to addiction or this or that or the other thing. But they always said this is better than smoking. And if it's better than smoking, then I said, I don't outlaw.
But you know what? I think people need to do it the old-fashioned way. Quit smoking the way I did it 19 years ago. I would chew on radial tires.
That's hilarious.
So,
That's good. I like that.
that was when women were women. Honestly.
All right. Wendy, I want to ask you about in Tower Grove Park, there is a Christopher Columbus statue, and we know, historians have known for a long time, he was no altar boy. He, in fact, had a terrible human rights record, and it's not something we discovered recently. Even the king and queen back then had to chastise him because of his abuses. So now people are saying, should there be a statue of Columbus in Tower Grove Park? Well, the people behind the park have decided that they're going to keep the statue and put up a sign or two that'll explain the history behind Christopher Columbus. What do you think of that?
I think that's leadership in 2019. I truly think that's leadership. They have even left the doors open for further discussions with representatives of Native American organizations to come in with any ideas that they have. But they didn't it wasn't a knee-jerk, rip down history. They are clearly explaining the abuses that you spoke of without just pretending that our lives are dry erase boards. We're not going to ever learn from the mistakes of the past if we wipe them off the chart. I wish that's what this is something that all of us had talked about during the conversations in Forest Park with some of the Confederates.
And I was fine with whatever they decided to do on that Confederate memorial, and I thought the solution was fine. It was not, I was opposed to destroying it, moving it was fine. But this is what they, to your point, it's a teachable moment. And to me, I think it's much more constructive benefit from using this as an opportunity to tell a part of the story that when we were growing up, none of us really heard.
And sure, he was a historical figure. I mean, not a good man, but a historical figure. So.
Well, just put on the plaque, also put that it said, like, listen, the reason, people got called Indians in America because his bird brain thought he was in America, he was way south of here and whatnot, and he thought he was in India or someplace. So like, wait a minute, he was not a genius. He got on some boats, he floated over here, they made it, more power to you. Here's your monument. Oh my God, this whole thing, we're like, oh, we got to take it down because he was, a long time ago. I feel bad for everybody who was hurt by him, but at the same time, this whole idea where these were geniuses. Well, no, they were kind of like Evel Knievel. They got on a rocket and shot themselves. They made it. Hey, right. Leave it at that. I want the plaque should say.
I want to know. I want to know how the PBS station in Columbus, Ohio, deals with this.
Columbia, Missouri.
Yeah.
Columbia, Missouri.
Yeah. Columbia, South Carolina.
I will say, I think that a sign there is great so that you can see the statue and then learn more. But most people won't read the sign, and truth be told, he's at a very prominent position in the park, and he ruthlessly killed people. And you do think to yourself, okay, here we are all these years later. For how many more years will we lionize this figure who, it's true, he did come over here on those ships, wasn't the first, but what he did to the natives was complete.
Well, that's true, but okay, if we go through everybody that did everything wrong, we wouldn't have.
We're going to have empty
history
books, empty museums.
Pretty much all the founding fathers were
That's
slaves.
right.
I mean, there's a lot of folks.
It's like, hey, everybody likes Alvin Reid. You start pouring through my history. It's like, I don't know about that Alvin Reid.
If you do this to every slaveholder, we no longer have any cities and street names.
Right.
You know, I mean,
we have no names for schools.
No, we're really. I mean, that's not to minimize that, but I do think you have to learn from them. I don't think that it's cool. I mean, we really, at least speaking for myself, we weren't taught how hideous a person Christopher Columbus was when I was in school, and hopefully they are giving a fuller picture of his atrocities now. Okay, but that doesn't require tearing down a statue.
Well, that's true, where's the chapter on Tarkmata?
Right,
and where's the chapter on this guy
right.
or this gal or whatever? Or Alvin Reid grew up on Lee Avenue in Kirkwood, Missouri, and we have presidential streets and whatnot, and the only one coming through ain't no Sherman, ain't no this. No, there's Lee Avenue. It's like, oh man, am I going to go to city council? It's like, I want to change the name of the street. I did not grow up on 327 Lee Avenue because Lee was this and Lee was that. I grew up at 327 Lee Avenue. Okay, I'm cool with that.
That's right.
All right,
I am too.
Have we put a plaque up there yet?
He grew up here.
No,
there's an arrow.
I understand where you're coming from, but for the sake of argument, perhaps, and only for the sake of argument, you know, those statues were put up in a previous era, and it's by people who are no longer around. And now that you are living in your community, paying taxes to your community, it doesn't seem that you have to be beholden to someone's decision 100 years ago to put up some sort of statue.
Look, I agree, Charlie. I hear what you're saying. It was people that were before and all that. Okay, I just could say
but
that.
thank God. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, thank God they didn't bulldoze Auschwitz. I mean, or any of the
I
death
agree.
camps.
I
I mean, you know,
good point.
We have to.
Well, I would say
St. Louis didn't have a sterling record.
Oh no.
No.
I mean,
He was a crusader.
He was considered anti-Semitic, anti-Islamic, and we're in St. Louis.
I totally agree. And I will
we
say,
can't knock that
speaking
statue
of being
down.
in St. Louis, I was in London a week ago, as some of you know, and there's a the cab driver said, you have got to go see the musical featuring the life and music of Tina Turner. And you'll see these billboards for Tina, the musical, in London. And I said to myself, well, she worked in St. Louis on Kings Highway, a Jewish hospital. Her formative musical years were here. What have we done besides the Walk of Fame to honor Tina Turner, who's
That's a great point.
seen on stage in Germany and in London and next month starting in New York City?
Well, you know, we really love her, but what's love got to do with it?
That's why she's the new news director
That's
for the
it.
Big
Right,
550
right.
KTRS.
Class is out. We gotta go home now.
Okay. We're going to read some of the tweets that were sent, and so here are a few for your viewing and listening pleasure. At Matt Holman writes, and by the way, the question today was, what's your summation of the current state of our St. Louis region? At the 9 Network, we tweeted out that question, and we heard from Matt, who said, it's never been easier to be optimistic about our region. It's never been easier to be pessimistic about our region.
All right.
Both are true, and sometimes at the exact same time about the same darn thing.
I agree.
We heard from at ST 17th Ward. The St. Louis region is at a crossroads. We either defeat Rex Singfield and corporate welfare, center young people and reduce poverty now, or face ruin. Thank you for that tweet. And at St. Louis T wrote, I've always considered St. Louis the clearest microcosm of the United States. Rich, yet poor, etc., etc. The biggest small town in America. I'm a little worried at the moment, however, to be honest. Leadership is out of touch, and the citizens in general seem to care only for themselves. You can tweet us your comments about that as I ask our panelists, what do you think, Bill McClellan? What is the current state of the St. Louis region?
Well, I'm optimistic about it. I mean, everything is not going great, and there are a lot of problems, but I still think it's a cool place to live.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I've always said this, that when you talk about the population of the city of St. Louis and Metro East and St. Louis County, what is our region, I guess, it is so few people compared to other major metropolitan areas that we could fix this. But we are one of the few places in America that could just decide, let's fix it. Let's do it. Let's be the bell guard for the rest of the nation and just put all this petty stuff aside and go forward. And I think we could do it. The problem we have, and don't blame municipalities and we got 80 this or 80 that. It's just like we just refuse to do it because we just don't want to let go of what we got. And nobody's going to lose anything if the whole place got better. So, we could fix St. Louis. We're one of the few places that can say that. Los Angeles can't fix Los Angeles. New York can't fix New York. They can do better, they can do that, but there's too many people. Chicago too. But here, we can actually fix it. We could get it done.
Wendy?
Our 29-year-old daughter just moved back home after, thank you.
Oh, wow.
After 6 years in Los Angeles, working at Paramount. And I believe that and she wanted to come home. And I think that there are a lot of kids who leave after they finish college, they want to go out, they want to see the big wide world. I think as parents, we should encourage them to do that because they have a pretty narrow window of opportunity to really see what's going on out there. But I thought it was fascinating. She could have moved anywhere, and she wanted to come home. The people who make up this community, the corporations who have stayed, the businesses who have stayed, are unbelievably, they have huge hearts. We see this all the time. I am terribly optimistic because I think a lot of these young people are moving back, and they are moving back to what they perceive to be a really vibrant, just an energized city, from the one that they left. So maybe I'm just happy, but I truly am very, very optimistic about the future. I think we've gone through some rough waters, but I think it's just because of what you said, because of the people.
Right. Now, I will also say a person I have a daughter at Dominican University in Chicago. Right. She's a junior. She ain't coming back. Right.
That's what I said. Right. That's what I said.
So give me 5-6 years and maybe so. But right now,
I had a daughter who went to the West Coast, and she's not only back, she's sitting here in the audience.
Lorna.
Well, I too am optimistic, and I think you've been much happier since you stopped gnawing on the tires.
My teeth are better too.
Much nicer.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's the tweets captured. We're kind of paradoxical because we all know it's a great place to live, work, and raise family, but we also have this sort of collective civic inferiority complex that manifests itself at times on stadium issues and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of a mixed bag. I would say the one thing I would say is we need to use the word "we" to mean all of us as a region and not just our piece of it. We need to think of we as the region.
Right. And then let me say, I was gone almost 20 years and I came back. Okay. It wasn't so I returned and I was very disappointed with what I came back to. And I don't mean that as an insult, but I lived all over the country in places that I lived. Danville, Illinois, Lansing, Michigan, okay, Little Rock, Arkansas, I got there, and I'm in these towns, from the early 80s to the late 80s, and they were working on, what do we do in downtown? And they had a plan, and they came up with it, and I moved back to St. Louis in 1995, and we just getting around, what do we do in downtown? And I'm like, this guy, what? So, we're a little bit behind, but just let's start walking faster.
Well, we have had a lot of plans, Alvin.
We got plans.
We got plans for entertainment districts from here to Shiloh.
And actually some more. The plans in the 60s actually did renovate.
Exactly.
The arch and the stadium and so forth. There were, you got to go back a little further. So sometimes they work, but most of the time, we should just build a big building to store all the plans.
Right.
All right. Well, if you'd like to tweet your idea, what's the recent situation, or what is how do you sum up the St. Louis region? We'll get to your tweet before this hour is over. But Ray, you, generally speaking, have been a little bit left of center, as we know. 32 years on Donnybrook. Right.
Sorry.
I was in middle school. You can't
But
count.
you're really critical of the Democrats, at least at the national and maybe the local level, for not at least posing a candidate to take on Congresswoman Ann Wagner, Republican from St. Louis County, yet.
It is, if they could be sued for political malpractice, the National Democratic Party, the DCCC, people should understand that when there's an open, when you don't have an incumbent, both the Democrats and Republicans tend to organize themselves to try to get a candidate who can get the funds and so forth. Sure, there's some primaries, but when they have a key seat like Ann Wagner's, the key point people have to understand is Claire McCaskill won that district in 2018. Okay, she won it. So it's not an unwinnable red district. And what the Democrats are doing by not having a candidate by now, less than a year from the primary, because right now Ann Wagner is getting a great vacation. She doesn't have to say anything about Trump. She didn't have to say anything about guns when there were some horrible things in the summer, despite being pro-NRA. They're giving her a vacation. You need a candidate if you're serious, and you also have to have some time to raise money.
Right. I disagree, Ray. I think that it is going to be a competitive seat, and I think when you have a competitive seat, you have a rush of money in there, and I don't think you need a candidate a year and a half out or a year out. I think it can be organic. Somebody can come up and say, I'm going to run, and then they'll get the money.
Right. Now with Bill, let me counter here, okay? Let's say somebody was named to run against Ann Wagner 2 months ago. In the last 2 days, obviously, situation in the United States of America has changed. Now Democrats say, like, who's the best person to take advantage of the situation that we have now? So why was the rush? Now, right now, if you looked at Ann Wagner, if you call her up right now, you say, like, Ann Wagner, you're a little bit more worried about your seat right now, today, than you were 2 months ago. So thus, the situation has changed. So what's the rush? Who cares? Look, she's going to run. She's the incumbent. They know that Claire McCaskill run that district. So who's the best person to run against her? What's the rush? I mean, my phone's not ringing, obviously.
Ray's pointing it out that the candidate, and this kind of goes both ways too, because like Lacey Clay has no Republican opponent, but you don't have the candidate being forced to express himself or herself on the current critical issues of the day.
Well, it's plenty of time for that.
And an opponent wouldn't mean anything. If there was an opponent running against Ann Wagner right now, I don't think Ann Wagner would be saying any more.
No, I agree.
Well, they would be pushing. Okay, first of all, it takes time to run one of these races, and they need to raise money, and they need to build a network of support.
Name recognition.
They need to build name recognition
Sure.
if it's somebody. And my understanding is there's been a number of current people you've heard of who have kind of thought, I'd like to run, and they are generally discouraged from doing so.
You know what,
because the DCCC is going to control the money.
Right,
and that's how it works.
And that's
it's
Ray,
the reality.
That's how it should be. See, we always get lost in this, like, what is the object of the game? The object of the game is to win.
Right.
And like you got a general manager, you got an owner, you got all these different things. And you say like, wait, well, they're making a mistake, and they're doing this, and they're doing that. And so like, well, you know what, dude, I know more about it than you do, okay?
I'm
and
telling
that's
you,
a reality.
I don't know if they do.
And if they said like, hey, Alvin, you should run, and I would say like, well, whatever,
Alvin, I think Ray is right. We need an important exchange of issues of the day, which is kind of missing right now in our congressional
She's
districts.
unopposed.
Because
it's
she's
not
unopposed.
okay.
She's not unopposed.
Yes, she
The same
is.
is true for Congressman Clay, too, to be
But
honest with you.
that's
I mean,
totally
because
different.
He's
the
got
lack-
an opponent. Cori Bush has already said she's running. No, it's not going to be it. I mean, the general election's done, and Lacey Clay's going to get
Clay does
reelected.
not have an opponent.
Lacey Clay's going to get reelected. That's not the point.
I'm going to compare and contrast, because Ray is so right on this one. In Massachusetts,
I think we're done. We can move on now.
In Massachusetts, Ed Markey's going to run for re-election, but Joe Kennedy has already thrown his hat in the ring. And you read the Boston Globe, and they're talking about the issues. They're going back and forth. So the voter or the constituent is having the benefit of a political debate, which we don't have. That's my
Well, do we
Wouldn't you
have a Kennedy? I mean, we don't. I mean,
Right, yeah,
I mean,
wouldn't you
Joseph
rather
Kennedy
get
can
it
always
right?
get publicity.
Because that's the point. You don't have somebody. Most likely, the candidate they come
Ray
up with
Hartmann for
is gonna-
Congress.
No.
Yeah.
Because then he couldn't do Donnybrook.
Okay.
Then he couldn't do
we'd be
Donnybrook.
off the
Hey,
show.
I don't even live in her
let's move on.
district.
Right, till I lost, then I'd be right back in.
Okay. Hey, I want to ask you about someone who might have the time now to run for Congress, but I think it's a sad situation because Kevin Steincross had a slip on the air in January, an unfortunate one. Local groups called for his head, and apparently they got it. Kevin Steincross, the morning anchor at KTVI, and Fox 2 have officially parted ways, Bill McClellan, and I think this is a career killer because once you've been tainted with some sort of slip-up like that, I think you're going to be like the Scarlet Letter, and it's going to be almost impossible for Steincross to find work. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, I don't think he'll find work in television anymore, and I don't know him, so I can't say, that he's a good guy or a jerk, but I was pleased when KTVI first said, we're not going to fire him, just a suspension. I thought this is just an unfortunate slip of the tongue, and anybody can make a mistake. And like I say, if I knew him and thought, well, he said that intentionally, it'd be one thing. But I thought, give him a second chance. I was disappointed that they bowed to pressure, and I don't think you can find a work in media when you've been dismissed for that. There's too many young people coming up who don't have that Scarlet Letter on. So I think he's got to find work in another field. Real work, not media work.
Maybe he needed to be suspended, okay, but he never should have been fired. I thought,
Right.
I said on the show when it first happened, I said, they came out and said, hey, don't think about elephants for the next 30 seconds. All you're going to think about is elephants. He was trying not to make a mistake, and I think he made a mistake. Now, that being said, all right, he'll find work. He'll do just fine. I mean, our president of the United States right now, in October of 2016, he has some things to say that we heard live and in color. He's president of the United States. So Kevin Steincross can't get another job being an anchor man or doing the weather or whatever. That's preposterous. In fact, he's probably going to get another job in St. Louis.
I hope so.
I think you're right, Alvin, because I think if you read some of the message boards, if you read the STL Today, the comment section, people are really outraged about this because this is not a guy. There's so much bombastic talk today, and he is not that. He is apparently just a yeoman. He just do a great job, and it was a slip of the tongue. And there was a story just days before when someone in the Northeast had lost their job for saying exactly the same thing. And if you've been on the air for a while, you know that your brain can play tricks on you, and it happens to you every day.
No doubt. I'll be the first to admit it. Oh, man.
It happens to everybody every day. But this was, I think you're absolutely right. He might get a job.
When I first started doing radio, I put an index card on my microphone right there that said, don't cuss. I mean, I don't cuss. And I was like, hey, don't cuss. Yeah. Right? Because that's it. Right. So people make mistakes. I think he made a mistake.
I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other about, because I really don't know all the details. A lot of times in a personnel decision, there may be other factors. I have no opinion about that. I would like to. I find myself amazingly disagreeing with my fellow founder, but only because you're like the pastor of the Church of the Second Chance.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying I'm getting him to check and stand.
No, I say you are. I'm just saying that you're saying he wouldn't get one, and I'm thinking you have enough disciples out there that I do think, as my colleagues have said, that it's too early to do his obit as a media person.
Yeah.
I think he could. I know you're saying he should be able to. I'm just saying I think he will.
Right. Well,
I do not think he's done.
Well, I'd like to disagree with Alvin. I mean, I don't ever like to disagree with Alvin.
That's
but I
a good
think
thing.
when you say that, President Trump survived this, President Trump is like a force of nature. I mean, he can say things that nobody else can say, that nobody should say.
Right. Good point.
And if you think, well, Trump got away with it, I got away with it. No.
Right, good point. Now, wait, and I'll put a no here. If you ever see him sitting in this seat, I'll be outside protesting. Right.
Hey,
I don't know that I think he's going to get a job in St. Louis media, but I don't think he's done.
I bet you will.
Let me ask you, Alvin, because we're going to go to your turn, get some questions from the audience in just a moment, but Mayor Lyda Crewson did nominate 9 people to serve on the board of Freeholders. That's the organization which will be joined by 1 addition from the governor, 9 from the county executive, and then look at possible governmental changes between the city and the county. Who knows? Maybe eliminating offices or combining police departments. Who knows what they'll decide? So she's included some, including Eddie Roth, the former editorial writer for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, Jerry Schlichter, local attorney, not to mention the Reverend Earl Nance Jr., who's been active in many different causes. What do you think about her picks?
Oh, great gentlemen. I mean, that's the same old, same old. Why bother? Why bother? What are they going to bring to the table that ain't been there before? Okay? Now, Sam Page in the county, he's waiting. He's going to name his names. I will probably have the same reaction to whoever he puts on there. There are people that I won't say that are controlled, but they are old school St. Louis. And the one thing I think I have learned in life, that old school St. Louis ain't working. So let's just try to can we please find some names and find some people that I've never heard of before, but their resume is 25 times better than mine or any of ours. It's like, listen, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to be somebody. You don't have to be in the Kiwanis Club or this or that or whatever. You don't have to have Cardinal season tickets. You don't have to have anything like that. Just be somebody that says, like, hey, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to sit on this committee and I'm going to listen, and then I'm going to have some recommendations.
Hey, as a 20th century man, I agree with you.
All right.
I guess I'll take the unpopular view. I first of all think, despite the fact that it's a little wonky, that the freeholders process is an important thing if we are serious about bringing ourselves together. And there's nothing. I say it's wonky, but we do need some analysis. And we all feel kind of burned by the Better Together experience, but this is not necessarily that. This is what should have happened in its place. And I'm not going to second guess legislators. The people you mentioned seem quite qualified.
I think so.
You do want people with experience, and I'm not going to.
But Alvin's right. Alvin's right. If you're going to have experience, have innovation.
I think Eddie Ross, a smart guy who has been involved in a lot of issues.
Smart.
That's what you want.
Yeah. Where are we at right now? Everybody here agrees that, man, we ain't no place we want to be.
Hang on a second,
so
Alvin.
Who's in charge?
These are good individuals.
Well, sure they are.
Hang on a second. They are individuals, the 3 that we mentioned, who have already contributed volunteer hours to our community. And they're knowledgeable, they're people of goodwill, and they're willing to volunteer their Tuesday nights or their Thursday mornings or whatever it is.
I do a lot of
volunteer
work, Charlie, okay?
Well, then you got to get your name in the county to become a member of the board of freeholders.
But what I'm saying is that, no, these are players. These are not like volunteer people. They've had big money jobs and big money responsibility, and we keep going back to the same people that broke it and ask them to fix it. I
don't think it's fair to characterize them as that. And
I agree.
First of all, we can't say it about the people, Sam. I'm not. My view is I'm not going to second guess Sam Page or Lydia Cruzan. I do think that the big question, which will be, I think that they'll look at, is the question of city reentry into the county.
Perhaps
that's going to be their big challenge.
Well, then jump to that.
And Alvin, you got to remember, experience matters. We've got a president right now. How much governmental experience did he have? Think about it. Let's go to our.
But we do need.
We have a question in the audience somewhere there in the far reaches of the Sheldon. Thank you very much for your comment or your question.
Thank you. This question is for Bill. With the Cardinals' magic number being 3, can you please contact someone with the Cubs organization and ask them to throw the next 3 games?
Okay, would you repeat that to me, Charlie? I didn't quite hear all that.
Ask the Cubs to throw the next 3 games.
Well, the Cubs are a very proud team, and they have a very rich history, and we'll never forget that night in Cleveland in 2016. And I don't think we'll be throwing any games. Although on the other hand, we committed 5 errors 2 nights ago, and we lost last night after they wild pitched the guy to third and then home. So I don't think we're going to break your heart.
All right. I think we have another question from the audience somewhere. Sir, take it away.
All right. Did Anheuser-Busch fold to cancel culture, and did the Des Moines Register cross a line by digging up dirt on the beer money college student who was just trying to donate $1 million to children's hospitals?
No. All right. You put it out there. you're on Front Street. Because see, in this world with all this social media, and you're putting out there racist stuff and whatnot, if it comes back and it gets you, you live up to it. And Anheuser-Busch said we can't have nothing to do with it. Oh, by the way, we'll still throw this money in the Bud Light fund or whatever, but we're done with you. Look, we didn't go through this. I'll be the first to admit to you, man, social media when I was in college, camcorder when I was in college, all this phone stuff when I was in college, I probably wouldn't be sitting here right now.
You and I would be working the fry at McDonald's probably if they came up with our.
No, nobody did wrong. Yeah. You're a hero today. Hey, tomorrow.
Now, what are you saying? He should be held accountable for the social media when he was 16?
Yes, absolutely.
So you're tougher on him than you were on Christopher Columbus.
No, okay? Not at all. What I'm saying is, if they put a monument up to this guy in Iowa or whatever, and 100 years from now, they found out, or 1,000 years from now, whatever, they found out that he had some racist tweets, I said, like, man, leave that kid's little statue up there, you know?
Hey, how about another?
16 years old?
Yeah, 16.
Another. Okay, we got to move along. We have so many people who want to participate. That's why they call it DonnyBash. Sir.
Are we ever going to figure out a way to improve the lives of the people in North St. Louis?
Well, isn't that a wonderful question?
It's a good question.
Well, honestly, I think that this Cure Violence is intended to be a step in that direction, and I think there is some good work going on up there. Recently went to a fundraiser for former Cardinal pitcher Kyle McClellan, who is building affordable homes up there, kind of underneath the radar. Many people don't know about that. And I think that's one of many projects that are probably too few projects, but there are a lot of them where people are working hard to improve the lives of others.
Well, and I think that was the point that Jimmy Edwards was trying to make when he said this is a multifaceted problem, and as much as Cure Violence is worth looking at and implementing, we don't want to solely focus on one particular component. That this requires a multi-layered approach, and that was one of the reasons why he said that he's kind of in a holding posture over the Cure Violence.
Hey, one of the first steps I think we all could take is, and I'm a advocate of this. We talk about urban and the people of North St. Louis. Why don't you just say it? How are we going to help black people, okay? How are we going to help poor black people, all right? And take all that North St. Louis and all this urban and all that out of it. And at the same time, throughout Missouri, they're poor white people, okay? And they're just as poor as poor black people. Now, there may not be the violence, there may not be the drugs, it may be whatever, but let's just look at it what it is. This is a have-not. In many ways, this is a black-white issue. So let's drop all the you live on this block. Hey, you're a poor black person that lives in a violent neighborhood. Do I care about you? Okay? And if you don't, then say you don't. And if you do, then let's do something about it.
I think, just real quickly, I think it's a great question for which there isn't an answer. And I do think that dealing with causes rather than symptoms would be a good start.
I agree, Ray, but at the same time, I do think that if you don't stop the violence,
right? There's no
the
question
violence
about that.
prevents people from
that's why I support
moving there,
their
starting
homes,
businesses there,
right?
being able to go to school, all that and more.
I didn't say that you shouldn't. I'm saying you got to
Right.
also address.
But right now, the question in St. Louis, you could get shot tonight. You could go to college 4 years from now. I said, I want to not get shot tonight. Then I'll figure out where to go to college 4 years from now.
Hey, we've got a question. Hello and thank you, or a comment.
This question is for everyone, and I'd like to know, where can we get the best pizza in St. Louis?
That's the toughest question.
And none of this goat cheese, roasted beet, kale stuff either.
Is that your friend who moved here from Atlanta? I'm just wondering.
I say the square beyond compare. I'm sorry.
No.
I'm sorry. I know that's.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know.
It's too easy, but I got to go with it too. I like him. I mean, well, let's see.
I like them all, but I will say, and it's a sponsor of mine on KMWX, and Joe Buck goes there, Big E's Pizza.
Okay. I've been there. Okay.
Vito's. Well, Vito's right here in Grand
Vito's,
Central.
exactly,
We
thank
love
you.
their
It's a
pizzas.
Sicilian
Yeah.
pizza,
Right.
very
And
good.
I think it's pronounced Amis, A''Mis, right on Manchester.
Yep.
Very good. I got one today, believe it or not, before I came here, so that was easy.
But I just
Okay.
admitted that I like Provel, so I'm going to need somebody to walk me to my
yeah,
car,
really.
I think.
No.
We have time, I think, for another question or comment or two, if someone... Oh, there we are. Thank you, sir.
Yes, as a fan of the Premier League and of MLS for many, many years, I would like to know how jazzed is the panel about St. Louis getting its own MLS team and stadium?
Very jazzed.
The Post has covered this story, and we got a team and all that. I write a column for every week for St. Louis American. I've written extensively on it, different issues and different things about the team. Very much so. It's exciting. Here's my thing. Let's get the ball across the goal line. We still don't know. We don't even know what the expansion fee is yet. We don't know what the shoe's going to drop on the stadium or whatever. This is a great deal, but the deal's not done. Keep your eye on the prize because it's not done yet.
Alvin, dark clouds on the horizon.
I think with all of the excitement over World Cup soccer, and if you're on social media and you saw all of that, that World Cup excitement, I think, again, going back to the younger people, I think they are excited, and because we represent that younger demographic, everybody on the panel. We are
Speaking
totally
of the younger demographic,
pumped.
Bill, would you introduce this next contributor?
I think our next question comes from Evelyn Sanchez, my granddaughter.
All right.
What's the best ice cream place?
Best ice cream place.
I'm going with
Best ice cream place. Well, I think, Evie, it's Ted Drew's. I mean,
Ted Drew's.
I'm going with Drew's.
this might be the 20th century.
Take me for
guy
ice
speaking.
cream.
What was Evie saying?
I think she's asking you to take her for ice cream after the show.
You got set up.
She's a politician.
Right.
Yes, she is.
Right.
That was hardly
and
veiled.
sorry.
I'm sorry to say you guys did a great job, and thank you for your great contributions. This is DonnyBash 2019. Thank you so much. We'll see you in 2020. You were the best.
Thank you, everybody.
And thanks to the 9 Network and our director, Anne Mary Berger. Have a great evening, and good night from the Sheldon.
Donnybrook is made possible by the members of the 9 Network.